Welcome back to the Hero Informer. As always, this is AJ, and a lot of people in the last issue and video of the Superman series were super confused about a couple things really. Why Superman is being this new almost CEO of Supercorp, why is Lex Luthor seemingly good now and not how he usually is, you know, the villain, or even down to why does Lois Lane have powers and now she is Superwoman. And yet here, a lot of those questions are going to be answered. And if you need to be caught up about any of this, because if this is your first video, yeah, it could be a little bit confusing, but I'll try my best to make it clear. Though if you want the full picture, I'll leave a link down below where you can get caught up. Either way though, as we pick up with Lex in the past, as this is a flashback, we see what his plan was getting arrested and giving Superman ownership of LexCorp, you know, his company. Because as we see here, we see what is essentially propaganda that Lex Luthor was going to play as advertisements around the city, it explaining how Superman is on his side. Lex here is a good guy, just like Superman, you know. He is going to be rebranding LexCorp into Supercorp, you know, help Superman spread the goodness and whatever around the world. But the real Lex goes on to say that he hates this. It's too childish. The little animated version of himself makes him want to shoot it in the face. Yet even still, he realizes that phase 1 of his master plan is correct. Lex will get captured, lose, quote unquote, and then go to jail, and then Supercorp will be activated, all inside of Superman's name, effectively taking over LexCorp against his will. And you may ask why? What is the point of this? Lex losing and giving up almost the face of his entire brand. He is going to say his end goal is to essentially trick Superman, see that a true path for a better tomorrow is to work with Lex instead of against him. In his own words, Lex says that's when he finally unequivocally wins. But Mercy here, not being satisfied with this plan, she goes on to mention a little bit of an experiment Lex has been doing on the side. A project called XL, which, seeing how it's spelled and what it looks like, yes, XL, taking the L from Kal-El and the X from Lex in Lex Luthor, yeah, you can just use basic logic and see that it is combining the two figures into something new. But even with this, if their original plan with LexCorp, or Supercorp now, doesn't work, XL could be a backup, but even Lex Luthor himself doesn't want this, as he goes on to say, XL is too dangerous, too unstable. It was essentially a shelved and forgotten, abandoned project, one that was never supposed to reach the light of day. Unfortunately, in the present, you know, things don't always go according to plan, as we see XL has been finally released into the real world. Though, as Lex himself said, he is unstable and untrustworthy. As we now move into the present and pick up where we were before, Superman and Superwoman Lois Lane being on the floor incapacitated by the kryptonite, and XL, this now Kryptonian Lex, being released. Mercy here, Lex's assistant, who is going against his will right now by actually releasing XL, she goes on to say, over the last few months, I've been using the resources at Supercorp and inputted what we have studied on Superman, Superwoman, Doomsday, and even Parasite, combining it all into XL, making him more powerful than ever. And that this finally, if the real Lex Luthor, who has forgotten his memories and has more or less been turned into a good guy, but as we will find later, even that isn't what it fully seems. But now this new creature, this new being, this XL, can be the Lex we all needed. The one that could finally save Metropolis. Though as we see this clone, or whatever this is, maybe it's just a test tube baby, using the DNA and genetic material from Superman and Lex Luthor, this new being, this abomination almost, goes on to question what is going on, what is he supposed to do, and what is his purpose. But having been installed with the memories of Lex Luthor, you know, his hatred for Superman is baked into his very being, as he immediately rushes and gets into a confrontation with this now weakened Superman. Or not even just Superman, but Super Duo, as it's also Superwoman Lois Lane as well. Though towards the end, we also find out some very devastating future consequences for this new Superwoman. Either way, this XL, which I think going forward, I'm just going to call him Kryptonian Lex, because XL as a name is kind of stupid. I mean, it's okay. I think Kryptonian Lex is just better. Either way, this new Kryptonian Lex goes on to say, I can now finally show off what my genius has created, and how I was built to kill Superman. And this now Superwoman is just a bonus. Though while we see Superman and Superwoman having to fight this now Kryptonian Lex, you know, their worst enemy, Lex Luthor, boosted up to Kryptonian levels, we move back over to see what the real Lex Luthor, who is in prison, Stryker's Island, is doing now. And as he is being led away, being about to put in a cell for what we can assume the rest of his life from all the crimes he has done, surely he gets a life sentence or maybe even a death sentence, depending if Metropolis even has that. Which I wonder in DC if a lot of cities or state laws even have the death penalty. Because even though they might not have a hope against some of the stronger supervillains with superpowers, some of the lower level ones, like especially in Gotham, you know, your Jokers, your even Deathstrokes or the Riddler, or Lex Luthor here. Surely eventually once they're caught or their crimes catch up with them, the government would just put them down if they could. And while it's not the government, we do see someone intervene to try and kill Lex Luthor, as another third party busts in, blowing the other officers aside, telling Lex Luthor that his time has come, and it is a new character named the Spirit of Metropolis. Now, if you're not familiar with her or her design and why she has the almost Superman crest or symbol on her chest, introduced back in the second issue of the same series, we see that she is essentially a woman named Marilyn Moonlight, and she originally was born in the 19th century version of Metropolis, in the Wild Wild West, and now being resurrected into the modern times using science and technology. She has now ghost physiology, so, she has more or less the powers of a ghost and can't exist during daytime. But she is a hero, and one that wants revenge against Lex Luthor after all of the atrocities that he has caused or has been a direct cause of him in Metropolis. Though Lex here actually goes on to plead his case, because as you know, this Lex has lost his memories and his ways, so he's technically not the same Lex that did all the evil stuff before, even if he is inhabiting the same body, if that makes any sense. Though if you do want a devious Lex and one that needs to be absolutely put down, we move back over to the now Kryptonian Lex, who is still beating on Superman. As he goes on to say, the powers that was infused inside of this body, they are remarkable. And even as Clark in his weakened state tries to escape, get Lois Lane out of there, into direct sunlight and out of the kryptonite range, of course they're still followed. And realistically, there's not much that, in their weakened state now, that they can do against a force as strong and as intelligent as this now Kryptonian Lex is. With his intentions being pretty obvious, he wants to tear Superman apart. Though before they can get into their battle, we see another voice ring out saying that this now Kryptonian Lex fight isn't with Clark, and it's with him, the original Lex Luthor, coming into the battlefield being aided by the Spirit of Metropolis. And knowing Lex Luthor, regardless of their personal moral alignments, their egos are still as big as ever. Neither one would want a pretender or someone else in their place. There cannot be a world where two Lex Luthors exist, so naturally that line of thought leads to only one conclusion: a battle to the death, as both Lex Luthors charged at each other. The completely human Lex using one of his infamous power suits to even the playing field a little bit, or as much as he can. But even still, he is just knocked into a building completely decimated. But even while this happens, even while this Kryptonian Lex has the upper hand, he was never supposed to really be a thing. He was incomplete, unstable, as he starts breaking down from the inside out, dying. He is on borrowed time, and even he knows it. The original Lex flying back, saying that this is why you were never supposed to be freed. You were made with the same technology I used to create Bizarro, and just as he was flawed and broken, so are you. And until I could crack the code, make these clones using Kryptonian DNA and genetics perfect, it wasn't safe to release you, but I can help you now. And just like that, he is grabbed once more and thrown to the side, because this Kryptonian Lex, he doesn't want to be helped, to be swayed in his allegiance. He wants destruction, pain, and chaos. And now not just on Superman or even this original Lex, he turns his attentions to Metropolis itself, going on to say and fly up above, "Metropolis, my home. For years you have rejected me, embraced an alien, an outsider. And if I can't have you now, no one can. Only then will the world truly know that I am the one true Lex Luthor." Clearly his mind is deteriorating just as his body is. Though if there is one person who knows what it's like to beat and has a history of fighting Lex Luthors regardless of any Kryptonian power set or not, it's Superman, and now plus Superwoman, as they come flying back in, getting ready to put the hurt on Lex this time. And while this is happening, we find out a couple things. The original Lex Luthor, to get out of the situation he was in at the prison, made a secret deal with the Spirit of Metropolis, one that she is going to be cashing in pretty soon. And the second, even with as great of a threat this now Kryptonian Lex is, Superman still isn't going to aim to kill. He is only trying to incapacitate and subdue, using his frost breath to try and freeze Lex. And even this Lex Luthor realizes this. Questioning ice? You're truly not taking this seriously, Superman. I've always said that my brains, my intelligence were mightier than your brawn, so perhaps I should use them. As he bashes Superman's skull in using his own head. And this moment of great pain, Superman slightly loses control, stops holding back from the effects of the red kryptonite infecting his system. And when that happens, when his red kryptonite levels gets too high, he goes into a little bit of a rampage and can't control himself. And with as strong as Superman is, you can obviously tell why that wouldn't be a good thing. Though while he is struggling to regain control, struggling to keep himself in check, the Kryptonian Lex now turns his attention to the other super being on the battlefield, Superwoman. Even mentioning and bringing up the fact that yes, now both him and her both have powers, creating a parallel. Lex Luthor, Superman's worst enemy, and Lois Lane, you know, the love of Superman's life. Both have Kryptonian powers just like him. As he continues going on to say, I didn't think I needed superpowers before, but I gotta say, I truly enjoy being able to beat Superman with my bare hands. So maybe now that this has happened, it's time we finally stop pretending and admit that we are truly the power couple Metropolis needs. Though we get another reminder of just how utterly insane this Lex Luthor is, as he goes on to continue saying, you never truly knew me, Lois. And now with the state I am in now, with the powers, you get to watch as I do all the things I should have done years ago. Nothing is holding me back. And now after I kill you and your husband, I'll find your family. Kill that boy of yours, your son, Jonathan Kent. And this isn't even a threat on her life, which is bad enough, but is threatening her husband, even her child, which as a mother, I would assume that's one of the worst things you could do. And that truly pushes her over the edge, as even she gets angrier, her powers flaring up, her heat vision going into overload, saying and proclaiming that no one threatens my family before unleashing a devastatingly powerful and ginormous blast against this Kryptonian Lex. So powerful that the beam itself eclipses the entire city, even shooting it off into space. She's currently unleashing every bit of power she had in her body, which, as powerful as it seems and actually does go to down this Kryptonian Lex, it doesn't come without its severe consequences, as we will get to very shortly. But for now, she expended way too much energy and just falls out of the sky. Though before she is able to crash land, Superman, Clark Kent, being in his weakened state, barely being able to control and keep himself in check, he catches and softens her fall. Though we see this Kryptonian Lex is in an even worse state, his skin now a prickly gray and cracking. He is completely falling apart, genetically it seems. But even he still proclaims that this isn't over. I will never stop hating Superman, and I will never stop showing that the world, it needs me. The real and original Lex Luthor finally showing back up on scene, he goes to appeal to the Kryptonian Lex one final time, going on to say that it was a mistake to make you, but I can still help. But yeah, this Kryptonian Lex, he is just too far gone. He isn't accepting help from anyone, even if it is his original self. As he goes on to say, can you even hear yourself? We will never help an enemy, especially Superman. Ever. You betray everything that we are. You forgot why we do what we do. This city, it owes us. This entire world owes us. And yet, you allow yourself to become this failure. You are a failure and you are not Lex Luthor. And remember what I said before, you know? Regardless of Lex, if he's good or not, he still has that same Lex Luthor ego, meaning there can never truly be two Lex Luthors inhabiting the same world, as the original Lex Luthor goes on to reply, oh, but I am, before obliterating the Kryptonian Lex point blank, killing him on the spot. And while it's debatable whether he was truly alive, being a clone or a fake genetic test tube baby, this Kryptonian Lex was still sentient enough, where this is still murder. Lex murdered his own self, which Superman instantly takes problem to. And honestly, I'm kind of on the side of Lex Luthor in this case. Because sure, in Superman's case, if someone can be saved or stopped or subdued, that is always the better option than just straight up murder, killing that person instead. And even as Superman goes on to confront Lex about this, he goes on to say that I did the right thing that I try to do every day. XL, the Kryptonian Lex, if he were to stay alive and have free reign, he would have not only killed me, my daughter, you, your wife, but every single person in Metropolis. He was utterly broken mentally and now physically, and he was never going to stop. Sure, Superman, you might be the Man of Steel, but you are not the Man of Tomorrow. I am. Which is just a cold line. Lex basically saying that, sure, Superman, what you do, you stop villains, you stop the overarching plot of whatever the supervillain or evil has. But that is only a stopgap measure. You know, if Superman was able to contain this Kryptonian Lex, one day he would break out again and cause more havoc. Yet Lex Luthor here, in his own mind, being the savior that Metropolis really needs, he has more permanent solutions that actually will save the day. But before they can keep arguing about what happened, what needs to happen now next, after all of this is over, suddenly Superwoman, who was still hurt from before, speaks out. As now both hero and villain look over and see the entire picture. Superwoman completely depowered, her powers gone. It took everything in her and some to defend and defeat the Kryptonian Lex from before, meaning now she is just back to plain old Lois Lane and no longer the invincible Superwoman. So yes, everybody before was complaining how this was a horrible decision, you know? Lois Lane shouldn't be a superhero. She is a reporter, the wife of Superman. Giving her powers and making her the next Superwoman, a superhero, isn't needed. Yet I always had the same stance of comics, they always go back to the status quo. Her being the Superwoman, having Kryptonian abilities, they were never going to last, you know? They were only for this story arc and they served its purpose. Though now it's going to be unclear what is going to happen when General Zod finally comes back to Earth to reclaim his powers, only to find out that they're gone. Lois Lane has used all of it. But if you have enjoyed this video, leave a like. or subscribe if you're new and want to see more content just like this. If you want to support the channel here, consider becoming and joining the channel membership and getting access to a bunch of cool and new stuff. As always though, this was AJ here at the Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.